extraordinary email from someone far away who listens through the internet, and he said, I can't tell you how upsetting and irritating I find your messages are, because I grew up in a church where we were always told what to do at the end of every message, and I just am terribly upset by the fact that you refuse to be hortatory or tell people what they ought to do. And then he said, that's what I used to think. But now, through these messages, I'm beginning to understand the message in a fresh new way that is really speaking most directly to a time of serious depression. So that was not a backhanded compliment. I was grateful for the words from a faraway listener. One announcement. Where is Sean Norris? Sean, stand up just for a minute together with Kate, and then sit down. Sean works with Mockingbird Ministries in New York City, and Mockingbird is an organization of young people who are trying to understand grace and the kind of message that I seek to give here in New York City, also engaging pop culture very seriously. They have an amazing website that is going through the stratosphere, and it has a unique approach. It's a combination of Brian Wilson and the most efficient YouTube culture you've ever met, and a tremendously techie world, which so many people live in, coupled with the message of the grace as over against the law of God, the grace of God, the forgiveness of God, as over against the sort of try harder side of life. And this group is doing a wonderful conference entitled Grace in Personal Relationships in New York City in the end of March, and you're invited. Mary and I always are there. We love to be there. But I'm just passing these out. If you care, no, you know what I'll do? I'll put them here. If anyone wants to find out more about this ministry to young hipsters who are mostly burned out Christians who are looking for hope and life from the gospel, and there are many such people in this country, especially now, read about it. And I'll put it right here, Mockingbird Ministries. Now, the class formally is a class on the book of Romans, though I haven't said that before. It's a class on the first few chapters of St. Paul's epistle to the Romans. But deep down, it's an attempt to understand the religious dimension, Christianity, in gut-level, fresh terms that speak today. Now, usually when I hear that, it's people trying, they simply find new words for the wrong idea. In other words, when you go to their churches, they may have overhead projectors and a rock band, but the message is the same old message. Basically, Christianity is a matter of getting it together, victory, control, and something that God gives you to aid your own efforts. You have to do your part, God will do his part, and together you will succeed in controlling your life. That is not the message. That is a not properly received message, although it's universal. And that message has so impregnated our understanding of Christianity that it has tired out the Christian world. It has exhausted people who are serious Christians or committed Christians, and it has created hypocrisy. Because if you say that Christianity is about victory and control, but in your private life you obviously don't have it, people are going to question your assertions. And so when Thornton Wilder said that religious language during the Great Depression had become degraded, he meant that it was now connected with hypocrisy and all sorts of ways of looking at life that were repressive rather than freeing. Although Wilder did understand that these words were meant to be freeing. They were meant to be joyous. They were meant to be creative. They were meant to inspire love and not to inspire guilt. Someone said to me last night, I'll see you tomorrow. And she said to me, oh, by the way, I'm probably the only person who will say that today and not mean the opposite. Because you know what people have, you go to a clergymen go to a function on a Saturday night, and as you leave, everyone says, I'll see you tomorrow. And they never come. You learn that very. Why did they say, I'll see you tomorrow? Because they knew they wouldn't see you tomorrow, but they felt guilty. Haven't you been in a shop? And as you leave the shop, you didn't find what you wanted, right? And what did you say as you left the shop to the salesperson that helped you? I'll be back. You say it because you feel guilty, because you know for sure that you will not be back. So when people say, inevitably, I'll see you tomorrow at a Saturday night dinner party, I always used to say to Mary, rats. That's for absolute sure that they won't be there, because they wouldn't have said it unless they were confronting an internal accusation, which I represented. Now, you've done this in daily life. You're constantly saying things you don't mean because of accusation. So what Christianity, and so this woman said, in this case, and she had a reason to say it, I really will see you tomorrow, because she understood that the moment she said it, my spirits plummeted. Now, Romans 3:24-31 is going to be talking about the great question, once again, of stress, identity, and control, because that's what the book of Romans is about. What it is it is a man who is writing whose life has been deconstructed. St. Paul was a man whose entire view of life in his early 30s had been deconstructed by a mammoth failure precipitated by being the witness to a dreadful event that he himself participated in. And this caused a crise, angoisse, a tremendous falling apart, and this created a new understanding of life. People, when I first got to this parish, many people got upset with the message, because they said, this is not a message for young people. This is only a message for old people who have been chastened by life. Young people cannot hear it. I disagree. I think young people know it very deeply and wish they could hear it. I mean, how old was St. Ignatius of Loyola when he got this message? How old was St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuit order? He was in his, 28. What happened was he was wounded in a battle. A typical aristocratic young man went to war. He was wounded and he almost died. So as a result of this tremendous crisis, he suddenly discovered that he could live posthumously, that he had actually died to all the ideas he'd had about glory. Everything had collapsed, and now he could live from gift or from grace. And so his life became a labor of love. 29. What about Ulrich Zwingli? Now, I used the name this morning in a service, and no one knew who he was, and I was sad, but hey, I quizzed you. Would you know who that person is? Ulrich Zwingli was, by extension, the founder of the Baptist idea of the Eucharist, but he was the reformer of Switzerland. Ulrich Zwingli was the man who started the Protestant Reformation in Switzerland, and his statue is in places like Zurich and Basel. He was the great Protestant reformer. He came to it at age 31. His life was complete. He was a Catholic priest, common law wife, as many of them had. That was normal in those days for the Catholic priest to have a common law wife. He was a very sensitive, thoughtful, intellectual kind of young man. But he was 31. He wasn't 51 like I am, or 58 like I used to be. Ulrich Zwingli got the plague. He was the person like in Apocalypto, who got the plague. In those days, many, 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 many people got the plague, and you died. And Zwingli somehow sweated it out of his system. He got the pest, as they called it. He died, but he didn't die. He just survived by a millimeter. His life was over, but of course it had begun. So at age 31, a young man like Jesus, like the founder of another world religion who started at age 26, like Ignatius of Loyola, like many other people, he got the message young. And the great thing about getting this message young, let me tell you why I want to encourage you to get it young and to encourage people you know to have their breakdowns early, as I always say, because you have more time to live posthumously. If you've gotten the message when you're 31, you've got 30 years in the year 1518 to do something, to love. 30 years of love. It's like in a marriage. Haven't you ever had a moment of truth in a marriage? A moment of truth, and you realize that your loving is selfish? And you have a moment of truth when your eyes are opened, and you say to yourself, thank God, I've still got some time to love him non-selfishly. I've still got a little bit of time to love this woman on her terms, not on my arrogant, contumacious terms. I haven't been able to use the word contumacious for such a long time.